Hey, Jantons and Jantonites, is Jason Desmond from the Janton Collective with you once again for another brand new edition of What's Up With That. This is where we question, we learn, and of course, we grow. Now, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment below because we love hearing from you. Maybe it's something that we talked about before, or maybe it's something that you think we should be talking about. Get in touch. Now, this is something that I've always wanted to get into, wanted to talk about, but I just didn't know enough about it. So I thought, hey, let's just get an expert on it. So, Metaverse, I'm pretty sure you've heard about it. What is it? Should you join a Metaverse? Another thing is NFTs. You've heard of it. Should you buy NFTs? What is an NFT? What's up with that? And joining us in our discussion today is George Wong, who's going to help explain all of this to me, the old guy who's trying very, very hard not to feel old in this digital age. George, of course, is the subcommittee chairperson for NFTs and Metaverse, Access Blockchain Association, CEO of Reactive Labs, and also, especially today, joining us in this discussion also, who's also trying not to feel old, is Ku Teng Liang, or just TL, who's the big boss of the Jantan Collective, because both of us want to know more about how we can make money in NFTs. But before we get to that, George, let's get to the Metaverse first. What is the Metaverse, and does Doctor Strange have anything to do with this?
Unfortunately, Doctor Strange has nothing to do with it. I kind of wish that
would be cool, man.
But I think there's a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon and calling their projects metaverses.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to explain because most of the time, the most common example we would try to tell people is like, if you imagine a very advanced version of the metaverse is Ready Player One. Like that's a really Okay, that's like way in the future. If you're wearing haptic suits and stuff like that, that would probably be an easy way to visualize it. But essentially, it's like a parallel digital space, right? Where anyone can participate and build their own experiences or just socialize with other people. Like previously, one of the earlier incarnations is probably games like Second Life, right? So
I was just reading about it. People are still on Second Life even now, right?
Yes. And the only difference between those are they in a way they still qualify as a metaverse because it's a space where people can come in, they can interact with each other. There's a kind of an economy that's going on there. And bit by bit, you're going to see a lot of people introduce metaverses. Facebook obviously is going to introduce a metaverse, and you end up seeing metaverses. They are like their own little countries, and you can actually visit every digital country and have a footprint. You can buy land, you can build something on it, you can make experiences on it, or you can just hang out and chill with people. And it's constantly evolving. That's why it feels a bit like an abstract concept because you can literally jump in and based on the limitations of the game, kind of do whatever you want, right?
Is it part of the metaverse now? I'm just trying to figure this out because Second Life was kind of like a website app kind of thing. And now the metaverse, people are talking about it with Jeff Bezos wearing those helmets. And then suddenly it's like, wow, this is like the best thing ever. And then Facebook changing their name to Meta. It's part of the internet, right? It's all one piece of it.
Well, I think where the big evolution for metaverses came was the rise of NFTs last year, especially.
Right.
Now, and incorporating NFTs into metaverses really changes the game because right now what you can do is you can create tangible, tradable value. So like to put in perspective, you could own maybe, let's say, digital land in Second Life, for example. Right. Theoretically, you can do that as well. You don't need the blockchain for that. But there's this mindset that, firstly, it's not very tradable. You have to trade it with in-game currency, etc. And you may not be able to use this particular asset in a different metaverse. If you were to buy, like, let's say, an avatar, and you want to use it in different games, you theoretically can't do that. You can only use it in Second Life. And it's not easy to trade it outside. And also, there's no actual transfer of ownership to the buyer, right? It's all on servers. And, like some people would say, if one day the servers crash and all the data is gone, you will have nothing. But with blockchain and NFTs, the difference is now they can make a tangible digital asset. That's kind of a confusing thing, but it's more tangible in the sense that you can transfer it, you can store it in your wallet, Even if you're not logged in, it's actually still sitting in your digital wallet, and you can actually go to a third-party marketplace and start trading it. So because of that ownership aspect, the metaverse concept really boomed. Like one of the most common things, I get into this argument all the time. Like literally every day, someone will try and debate with me, like, why would I buy digital land when I can buy actual land for the same amount of money? And the reality is, I always tell people that, if you were to compare, so let's say if one were to have young kids today and you ask the kid, would you like to own some empty plot of land in Sungai Buloh, Sekinchan, or wherever? Or would you want to own a piece of Roblox or Minecraft? They would definitely want to own Roblox or Minecraft. Even the parents can still say, yeah, my kid's going to buy Roblox or Minecraft. They're never going to want real tangible, because the world is very different for the next generation, where as land becomes scarce, our world is expanded by digital space, right? So the ownership of digital land, especially as the next generation comes in, the value of it gets higher and higher,
So you say the digital,
Yeah.
but you say the digital land, Facebook, they create their own metaverse, right? So the digital land is based in their metaverse.
Yes.
So would it, like, let's say if Facebook closes down or something like that?
Yeah, what happens to that? Yeah.
Okay, that's a big question, right? So, and I don't have a fantastic answer for this, okay? So it is an evolving space. So let's say, theoretically speaking, that Facebook has, let's say, 100,000 plots of land, they've sold it all out, right? And then they decide that, we're going to close down servers. And that's technically still possible, but the difference is that now there's a lot of control with landowners, right? So by design in the metaverse, if let's say I were to buy digital land, I do buy, it's my most profitable portfolio, right, in the NFT space, and I have digital land, and the future of whether or not it's going to continue, etc., the holders of the land actually have voting rights, like actual landowners in the real world, right? If you own a lot of land, you theoretically can actually not only vote on what happens, but you can also initiate a takeover of the metaverse itself by the people who owns land.
Even if the metaverse is not around anymore, if Facebook were to shut down its servers?
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? So you can actually make a claim to, but again, this is by design. So for example, many Web 3.0 metaverses is designed to be decentralized, which means the ownership and the future of the metaverse is based on the holders itself, right? The holders of the land would actually have a say as to whether or not how it moves forward, etc. So that's by design. So if the original guys who started it decides, I'm tired of maintaining this, we're going to put it to a vote, the community can choose someone else to lead it and manage it, that's theoretically possible. Whether or not Facebook would transfer that kind of rights to its landowners is highly subjective. Most people don't believe they would do that, obviously, right?
So in a way, okay, so this like real world kind of thing I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Basically, let's say Facebook, they're like the developers. They build a house or they have land for you to buy. Once you get your strata title or your whatever title that you have, they don't own that land anymore. You do.
Yes.
And then you have rights to it.
Yes.
But it's a digital space in this case, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So the rules of real estate applies on the metaverses as well. Like,
right.
Location, the fact that it's scarce, all the same rules apply. But of course, it depends on how popular the metaverse is, right? So like in the case of what you see behind me, that's the Sandbox. So when coming back to the whole ownership aspect and server shutting down. So again, it's by design. So we don't know what the final design of Facebook's meta would be, metaverse would be. And but generally, most of the so-called Web 3.0 stuff, they do have this in mind that, and it happens a lot, right? In NFT space, there are a lot of rug pulls, projects where the founders just take the money and run, and the community, the holders themselves actually take over the projects and keep it alive. That actually happens a lot more than you believe. And that's because that's the nature of it, right? Because the NFTs are being held by the holders. So the holders can band together and decide, hey, the guys who started this, they took all our money, but we still love this community. Let's do something with it. How successful they are, most of them are actually not successful, but there is that effort by the community to keep projects alive, even though founders have just ran off, right? So that's a difference with NFTs. You have that option, but in the case of, let's say, World of Warcraft, you can assume that in some way, it's not a metaverse, it's an MMO. But if they shut down servers, you may have spent tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands on the game. You get nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If they just choose to stop, and that happens in AAA games, that happens a lot. So that's probably where the metaverse is a little bit different, and people can take over development and continue to expand on it. Theoretically, it's possible.
But there's no one metaverse, and there's like multiple metaverses. That means no one really controls the metaverse in a way.
There are many people making new metaverses, so it's like making your own little digital country, right? There are plenty of that. A lot of them are VC backed, Decentraland, Sandbox. All these are VC backed. There's some that I'm looking at as well, like Solis, Heavenland on Solana platform. There's many. This is just a tip of the iceberg. Like every guy out there who wants to make a quick buck is trying to sell a metaverse. Similarly, everyone who wants to make a quick buck is selling a DAO. They have no idea what a DAO is. We also have to be wary that there are a bunch of so-called metaverses that are not actually metaverses, right? And that's going to be a bit confusing for people as well. They're just riding the hype of the term, you know?
Right. Okay.
So can anyone hack this at all?
Well, in terms of like land ownership and all that, no, because of the blockchain, right? So that helps to secure your ownership of it, lah. In any tech, I would never say 100% unhackable, but it's very extremely unlikely, because at this moment, in order for you to actually hack a blockchain to make changes into, let's say, the ownership of NFTs, you would require you to have like the cost to hack will probably cost more than what you're stealing, lah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to say. So that kind of defeats the purpose, because the effort that you need, the amount of hackers and etc. you need to do it is very difficult. What happens in the NFT space is theft, but it's phishing scams normally, right? Or they'll steal your password, or they'll steal your phrase codes for your wallet, and then they'll steal. And there are also some malicious code where they get you to interact with the code, and then they wipe out your wallet. That happens, right?
Oh, so, like in real life, like they'll steal your PIN and whatever. It basically is the same thing, right? Okay.
Yeah. So most of those that you hear online, like, oh, there's this scam, etc. Imagine phishing scams, but on steroids.
Right.
It's insane the amount of phishing scams there are online, and on Telegram and on Discord, where people are just scamming people and wiping out their wallets. It happens to even some of the best or the most experienced guys in the space.
So
right?
on that,
though, well organized.
Because I mean, everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. Everybody's trying to get in on this metaverse thing. Everybody wants to, because it's very, very exciting. On the flip side, there's also a lot to be fearful about, and also I'm pretty sure that people who aren't savvy or digitally, look, I know people who can't even turn on their MySejahtera, right? And then just to scan the damn QR code.
Yeah.
And then here we are talking about the metaverse, right?
Yeah.
Is this how it's gonna be, the metaverse? Because back in the day, back in the 80s, we had Max Headroom, and then after that, here we are. Then there was Tron, and then now we're talking about Ready Player One. Is this the new way to go? Is this just one thing to do, one way to go, or is it just gonna be, this is how it is? This is gonna be the internet from now on?
I think it will evolve from here, to be very honest. And the reason being is that if you consider what would drive the development of a metaverse is actually commerce, right? When you have the ability to sell land, like a lot of them, what they're doing is that they would be launching avatars. So you're buying the avatars before the game is fully launched. You're buying the land before you can even use the land. Right? You're selling all these things, and all that funds actually goes into the development of a metaverse, because a lot of people look down on the development of a metaverse. It's literally like building a digital country. You have to incorporate hundreds and thousands of people coming into the space, or even millions at the same time. There's so many variables that it does require a lot of funding. And through the sale of NFTs, digital land, avatars, and in-app purchases, it would help to develop that over time. And that's where, and it continues to grow and evolve, and metaverses continue to evolve, right? As more and more people come in. So I'll give an example. So let's say like Sandbox, right? If you think about it, when they create a metaverse, what they're doing is just basically 144,000 plots of land, which is technically empty, right? It's just barren land, right? And then that's where companies like Snoop Dogg, Gucci, and all these brands come in. They'll buy land and then they'll build an experience on the land. And then as a result, as more and more people participate and build experiences, then more and more people come in. So, but people only do that if there's a financial benefit, right? I mean, Snoop Dogg is building Snoop Land. It's great, but he also wants to make money. And he's been very candid. He's been on interviews saying he doesn't really know much about what's doing, but he knows he's making money from selling his avatars. It's selling cars that's pimped out in a Snoop style. So, and they are only doing that because they see potential revenue, new kind of revenue for their business, right? Or for their brand. So that, and then that creates more experiences. Then it continues to evolve. And then after for a while, people are going to compete on different experiences. So, but only by enabling a form of commerce for all these parties to come in would a metaverse grow. So you can't get Ready Player One if it's 100% being developed by one party. Like there's going to be many different companies jumping in, trying to make a different experience. Even in that movie, there will be one area which is like the bar area. That's the racing game, right? There are different type of games, and in a real world context, that's going to be like different companies coming in, building their experiences, making concepts like play to earn, and that's when gets people coming in, so that it continues to evolve. It gets bigger and bigger. So this is really just a starting point, right, for something that might completely dominate us in the next 2 decades.
So the thing, like, because Snoop Dogg is Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
He's a freaking legend. He's a
Yeah,
star.
pretty much.
If Snoop Dogg were to sell some stuff, hey man, I'd buy it, right? Because I might like Snoop Dogg. But George, you've been in there for a while. But let's say little old me, just JD, right? How do I make money off this? I'm not Snoop Dogg. If I buy land, how do I make money from this thing?
Okay, so that's a good question, right? And it's a bit like a gold rush right now. Okay, it's a bit like a gold rush, like there's gold fever. And what I mean by that is that the number one thing that is of high demand and value in metaverses is actually land. Because every metaverse is designed to have limited number of land, right? So, and everyone is competing aggressively to buy land. And you're talking about whenever like the Sandbox does a land sale, it would literally sell out in 3 seconds, like 500 plots of land. And you're not talking about things that are cheap, okay? They're in the thousands of dollars each, right? And it sells out in seconds. People put bots. Literally, they don't even care how much money it takes. They will just want to buy as much land as possible.
And what do they do with the land?
So here's the thing. In many cases, you flip it.
Oh.
You flip it, right? Because there will be more and more people, more and more companies now are going into the metaverse. It's going to get scarcer and scarcer, and the price goes up. To give you an example, digital land easily 10 times, maybe 100 times in terms of, especially if you manage to buy it really early, but you're taking a punt, right? Because if you want to get them at the lowest price possible, you actually need to buy it from the beginning where there's nothing. So you're taking
developer price lah.
Exactly, right? And there's nothing there, and you're actually funding their development.
And you don't know whether it's going to be a hot thing or not. It's just like everybody wants to buy, but you might be buying nothing.
Correct.
Right?
And because before it completes, the developers could, especially in this space, everyone likes to be anonymous. They could run, and then you could be holding NFTs that will never become actual metaverse land, right? So there is a little bit of a speculative aspect to it as well. So there are of course ways to mitigate that risk, or you can buy it a little bit later, and that's what a lot of people are doing. Like people are now.
It sounds a lot like back in the day when people used to buy like domain names like crazy. .com it was, like Adidas.com. Then you go to Adidas.com, it's not really Adidas, it's someone else. But then Adidas has to like pay a shitload of money just to buy that, right? Ideal, actually, like TrifectaCollective.com, right?
Yeah.
No one at that point when you bought it, right? There was nobody who actually bought it, right? Who knows? If you want to buy TrifectaCollective.com.
Oh, go ahead. Mine is not .tv now.
Not TV.
Yeah.
Just saying. But there's almost the same thing, right? You buy these domain names, you don't know whether people might be interested in it, but then, hey, if they are, you could sell it for whatever price you want to put it, all right?
Yeah. And the thing is, because sometimes when they launch, they're really cheap because they know that you're taking a punt on them. So maybe like a digital land can even be as cheap as like $50 US dollars, $100 or $200. But that $50, $100, $200 can be worth $20,000 or $30,000 in the span of 6 months.
Wow.
Right. So if you punt right, you get something good. And the difficult thing is right now in the NFT space, it's like a war zone. I don't know how to explain this to you. Like everyone comes to me, I hear about these NFTs, I hear about people buying a Bored Ape, a monkey, Jimmy Fallon, Paris Hilton, Stephen Curry, all these guys are buying a Bored Ape NFT and they want to get into it. And I tell them that it's literally a full-time job. If you go into the deep into this NFT space, people quit their jobs in order to fight for whitelist and the ability to buy NFTs before anybody else in order to make money. It's extremely time consuming. Like because I trade NFTs every single day, right? And I'm in the communities and I literally spend every single free moment between work is my Discord's open. By the way, that's where all the NFT community is at. Somehow or another, they've taken over Discord, they've taken over Twitter, right? Twitter, NFTs literally revived Twitter. It has become the #1 social media for NFTs, right? They even have a verification, your profile photo. They can verify that you own the NFT, then it becomes a hexagonal shape. That's a new function.
Oh, that's what I see. Okay.
That means
Right.
you actually own it because there's a lot of
Yes.
people who just copy someone's NFT and
Right.
put
Oh,
in their
that's what it is.
profile.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
Right.
So that's how big of a deal it is to Twitter that Discord wanted to introduce a crypto wallet login, and they got extremely criticized by the community because they said actually Discord's for gamers, but what's all these NFT guys kind of
Right.
taking over Discord? And literally, I'm in like hundreds of Discord groups, and none of them are about games.
Right.
Like, and that's how crazy it is. And so there's no right way to tell people how to get into NFTs. It's really a matter of effort, getting involved in community, getting involved in Twitter, and then everyone is just doing it to fight for the right to buy NFTs, which includes digital land,
Right.
before anybody else.
Yeah, would you buy land in a metaverse?
I mean, it depends, right? Like, okay, first, I'm still curious because George only mentioned one part about how we earn from
Yeah.
from but you also
selling
said
the land, right? Yeah.
play to earn earlier, right?
Yes.
So how does that work?
Play to earn. Oh, that's a whole
Because
topic,
because buying NFTs, buying land and stuff, it's something for people with money already.
With money, correct? Yes. Yeah. And you can quit your job if you have a lot of money already. Yeah.
I mean, look at Snoop Dogg and look at Adidas coming in. The high value ones, they have money already. Of course, the ones that you say we take a punt for it, we can get it for cheap and stuff like that. But it feels a bit like still a rich man's playground at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I might be wrong because I don't know much about this.
I would admit, in an image point of view, it is, because in the news you're just seeing guys like Justin Bieber pay 500 Ethereum for a particular one of Bored Ape, that kind of thing. So that is actually affecting how the market sees the whole metaverse and NFT. They're
it's very atas looking.
Yeah, it feels that way because that's what the news portrays. But actually, there are a lot of very affordable NFTs. But having said that, I think I have been so entrenched that I have lost all sense of numbers, like relative to ringgit. I am not kidding. I have to stop myself because I literally shop NFTs. I trade so often, right? Buy and sell. So I'll be like, oh, 0.1 Ethereum. That's cheap. When you think about it, that's $300, right? And US dollars, right? Which is like 1,002 ringgit for an NFT. But I'm like, oh, that's cheap. That's actually not cheap in a real world context, but I'm desensitized. And I think that's what happens to most people in NFTs and metaverses. They will end up losing that sense of cost versus the real world.
This is exactly because in like what DL said, 1,200. Like in your case, like 0.1 whatever Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
1,200 is someone's rent.
Yeah.
Or more than someone's rent already in some cases, right?
Yes.
Like abang delivery rider, can't get into this.
Yeah.
Am I right?
There are different things that's coming up that will probably make it more inclusive. But I would say that generally the market is like a lot of people, maybe they go into one, or they buy like one NFT or two NFTs, that they get into it, then they manage to flip it for a lot, then they kind of keep rolling it. I've seen many stories like that. I saw a kid recently that's 13 years old who sold an NFT for 30,000 US dollars. With his one buy, he got lucky. So there's a lot of stories like that. But I have to say that it can be expensive, especially if you are not experienced with it. It can be extremely volatile, and you can also make massive losses. So it's not just about how much money you can make, but also how much money you can
actually, you know what, George? If governments were afraid of cryptocurrencies before, how are they feeling about this metaverse, which kind of sounds very cowboy in some cases? How do governments around the world feel about this?
I can't answer for them very much, but I would say that a lot of them are still kind of monitoring and trying to understand it.
Are they trying to regulate it?
I don't know. I think different countries have different. I know that the US taxes NFT sales, right? So if you sold the digital land for profit, they tax you based on their tax law, right? Some countries are doing that, but the tracking is always a bit iffy. It's very difficult to track these kind of gains, etc. And also that Ethereum prices fluctuate at the same time. So it's very hard to say how much you make or lose from it. But I think that because it is considered a sale of product and service rather than an investment. So if you can't actually, not you can't, but I think it depends on the government whether or not they're looking at it as a sale of product, which to me, I think it's more of a sale of product. It's just that the buying and selling demand is so crazy that the prices fluctuate like crazy, but it's still a product. So for example, if I sold you an NFT of an artwork and you get the artwork, that's what it is, right? If nobody wants it, then that thing drops to zero. Yes, but it's not actually a security. I know a lot of artists who, because of COVID, they couldn't make much money. But when they shifted to selling their artwork on NFTs, it becomes the survival, right? So on one hand, if they over-regulate, they're going to kill off a revenue stream for, let's say, the artistic market, who's just trying to make ends meet. And that's kind of the only way. I actually know quite a lot of artists who have turned over their fortunes in due to the pandemic by actually just selling artwork as NFTs, right? So I think a lot of regulators are probably like kind of seeing how it develops, right? How it develops, but you can't really apply it because when you buy an NFT, it doesn't promise you returns. You can make return, but it's no different than buying artwork or luxury items where you buy it. They may go up in price, they may drop in price, but that's based on market demand.
Correct. And in art, I mean, like some people buy art just because they like the art, not necessarily because it's like, oh, Da Vinci or whatever it is, right? They just They just really want the piece of art.
Like me, I support artists, so I buy them. I would never recoup the money, but I know that the artists need it and they're good artists, so I contribute to that as well. So if they start regulating, it's just going to make things more complicated for the good that it can do versus the good that the bad when it comes to the speculative environment. So I think everyone's playing a wait and see approach right now. We hope that they don't over-regulate as well, because it would kill off maybe a big segment of the artistic community, right? They are the ones actually benefiting from it now. It has never been easier to get their artwork out to the global market. And to an American to them, $300 is nothing for a piece of artwork, but to a Malaysian, for example, that's a lot of money. Like you said, that's rent, right?
Yeah.
So that is why I would say that it's we don't know, but I think so far the good news, it seems that most governments are not trying to over-regulate it yet. They're just observing.
Yeah, because I think one of the reasons why, because this is something I read, that they're trying to get ahead of the curve in case some abuse, some crime, some whatever it is that happens, so that they can kind of mitigate it, they can kind of control it. They want to make sure it's a safe environment. But there's no way to, that's the whole point of the metaverse. It's the beauty of not being controlled.
Fast, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is evolving extremely fast, right? And I think that's why a lot of people like what you're saying. Most people can't even wrap their heads around the metaverse. Half the people ask me, why would anyone buy digital land, right? We're still
some people can't even reload their RFIDs for crying out loud, and then we're talking about metaverse right now.
Right, and there's a very large barrier of entry in the sense that the understanding of tech, right? Like to give you a perspective, if you want to buy digital land in metaverse, this is what would happen. you need to have a MetaMask wallet, you need to buy some Ethereum from, let's say, one of the DEX at Luno, you got to transfer it into your MetaMask. This already scares 99% of people in the market, right? And after you transfer it to your MetaMask, then you need to join a Discord, you need to figure out which metaverse that you want to take a punt on. Then after that, you need to go to a website, connect your wallet, buy it, and then you don't even know how to see it. Then you're going to go to OpenSea or any of the other marketplaces to actually see your NFT. That just hearing that, I think you lost me halfway, right? And that's what most people are going to feel, right?
I lost you at MetaMask, dude.
Yeah. And I tell you that is a big problem. Like half the time I will be spending, I have to literally walk people through it. It's a very, very there's a very high barrier especially when it comes to tech, and especially for people who are like with means. So the interesting thing, like with crypto, I think I mentioned this before in the last interview, I think, is that a lot of people think that crypto NFTs is a young person's game, but actually the ones who have means to do it is actually people who are most, who have income, and they are the ones trying to get in. So I'm finding myself, when I have friends who are investors or they just want to try it, I'm going to go explain them the whole thing. And they are the ones who are also most likely to make mistakes or get scammed because their understanding of technology is very low.
How do we get into this metaverse thing? What should we be looking for? I don't even know what it is. I mean, that to be looking for, are we going to buy land? Are we going to buy, what should we be checking out in the metaverse first?
Okay.
Well,
okay. So because there's so many aspects to it, so I'm just going to list out some things that might make sense, right? Okay. Buying land, of course, because you can buy it, you can flip it, you can rent it out like real land, right? And so that someone else who doesn't have land can rent it instead of buying it, and they can build the experiences as well.
Right.
Also, you can rent it also.
You can rent it out. Yes, you can literally rent it out and make income from that. There's also a growing demand for creators, people who's going to build stuff on the land. Because I may be a landowner, but I can't do any kind of design, game design or building design, nothing, right? I just own the land. And then there's going to be people who are going to be builders, right? So there's going to be new careers being made out of it, because we have an extreme shortage of people who can build experiences, right? Snoop Dogg's not building his land himself. He's farming that job out to a game studio or a developer who's going to actually build it. So some people who are getting into the metaverse, they're actually bringing their skill sets. They're not even buying land, they're not investing, but they're bringing their skill set into the metaverse. There are already digital land real estate agents, right? In the metaverse, right? So they're taking their actual expertise and they're going in there. So you just need to think of it. It's a real world. Like the real world, you have land. If you want to create value for the land, you're going to build something on it. You need to have builders. You need to have an ID, right? It's going to be the same in the metaverse. You're going to have someone need to sell it off. You got someone who needs to do an experience. People are doing digital stores to sell merchandise. I'm doing that. I'm setting up instead of building a real physical store to sell luxury watches, I'm building a luxury watch store in the metaverse, right? That's kind of one of my projects I'm doing, to sell luxury watches.
So if someone goes into your store in the metaverse, and likes a particular watch, and then I'll pay you by Ethereum or whatever it is, and then through that in the real world you're gonna send it to them, and then
okay,
is that how it works?
For in one, that's one way, but in my case they're buying the NFT of the watch.
The NFT of the watch,
which they own the rights of the actual watch, but they may not necessarily want to redeem the watch if they don't want to. They can just sell off the NFT later on. So whoever who owns the NFT would be the final owner of the watch in question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
But anyone could do that, right? But whether they have a watch or not, how do you know that?
All the serial number particular, that's NFT.
So the NFT gives you the rights to the particular watch, okay, which we store it in a vault. That's what I'm doing. So I've bought like different luxury watches, for example, and anyone who wants to also issue an NFT for their watch can deposit into our vault. And the reason why someone wants to do that is because some people buy watches as an investment. Luxury watches prices have gone up extremely, right? But the thing is, it's a real hassle to actually just sometimes take photographs of it, list it, and trade it. So what we are thinking that's going to disrupt the market is actually you have the NFT, which represents the rights of the watch. It's now easy for you to trade them because you don't actually need to handle the watches and deliver them out. You just trading the value of the watch, you see. But it's stored in a vault. Of course, we have to do our process to make sure that's authentic. And whoever who owns the NFT, if they want to check the authenticity of the watch, they can log into our site using the NFT. They can log in, they can check the serial number, they can even check with the brands if they want of the authenticity of the watch. So there is some mechanisms in place for them to check.
You know what? This conversation can keep going on and on and on because I think we have to revisit this soon again, George, because the metaverse just evolves so quickly, right? But I just really want to quickly touch on the background that you have on right now. You said it's Sandbox.
Right.
So Sandbox is another metaverse, but
Yes.
I hear a lot about Sandbox though. Why is that on a whole different level of metaverse?
Well, I think there's a lot of attention to Sandbox because some of the biggest VCs or PEs have invested into it, which means
Didn't it start off as a game?
Yeah, so it used to start out as a mobile game, and then they pivoted the business to now focus on building this metaverse itself, right? So and it's getting a lot of attention. I mean, the reason why it got so exciting because SoftBank, probably one of the world's largest PEs, actually invested into it, right? And then the world started to take it a bit more seriously. But Sandbox, I would say, I'm happy to be a part of them. I'm also the growth lead for Malaysia. It's because I think that they are an exciting metaverse. They're doing things that others are not. They're able to get very strong partnerships. The Walking Dead is in, they've got everything from Smurfs to Walking Dead to Snoop Dogg to DJs, all building experiences inside there, making that, and that's why people are jumping into the Sandbox, because the strength of the partnerships that they have, all the different IPs that are coming in, the few hundred IPs that are coming into the Sandbox. So when the time that the full game launches, the metaverse launches, you are guaranteed to get a lot of different experiences that you may not necessarily get from other metaverses, right? Because one of the key points to note is that besides the whole land thing and all that, it's the quality of your experience. If you go into a metaverse and there's nothing to do, it's not interesting, you and your friends are not going to hang out there, it's going to be a dead metaverse, right? So the content, the experience is highly important. So we and everyone is trying to out innovate each other in the metaverse. It's actually very hard to create engagement in the metaverse. Okay, it's very hard because when in the online space, people have very short attention spans, right? They'll go in, they expect to find it interesting or fun or entertaining in a very short amount of time. And that's where I think a lot of metaverses are going to have a challenge. I mean, like it or not, although I'm not a big fan, I'm pretty sure that the moment Facebook launches, they would probably get a lot of traction because firstly, they have the users. And secondly, because of the brand, they could probably easily get thousands of different IPs jumping onto their metaverse, building an experience, right? And that's important. It's really the quality of experiences, right? And that determines the success of a metaverse. So Sandbox right now, in terms of profile, I would say, although in terms of market cap, they're the second largest metaverse, but I think in terms of content and potential growth, it's the most highest profile. I would say good metaverses, they are all trillion-dollar businesses eventually. That's the potential of it. And Sandbox is probably the highest potential metaverse in the market right now.
Before Facebook comes in.
It's mixed bag. I actually don't know. There's not a lot of support in the NFT and crypto space for companies like Facebook because they feel that they would be at mercy of a big company. Like people are trying to decentralize.
Right. It defeats the purpose, right?
Correct. They don't want the Googles or the Amazons or the Facebooks to be controlling their metaverse experience. They want to have complete user control. And that's what platforms like Sandbox almost have complete control, right? Because for example, nobody can stop you from buying a Sandbox land. You can go on an open market right now, as long as you're willing to pay the price for it, you can buy a plot of land and you can build whatever you want, except there are certain terms of use, like you can't do porn and stuff like that. But other than that, you can do whatever you want. You can.
Oh, do they have things like that?
You have to, because if you look at the nature of Sandbox, the game, it's likely to introduce a lot of kids to it.
Yeah.
Right. Because of the design of it, so they have to have, of course, some terms of use.
And Sandbox also has play to earn, right?
Okay, so that's a big topic. But in the case of Sandbox, they enable play to earn. They create tools for you to create play to earn games, because people go onto the Sandbox to create games. So you can create a play to earn game on your land if you wanted. They have the tools for you to create a play to earn experience, right? So to jump into play to earn, essentially, it's exactly what it means. You play the game to earn money, right? It got popularized by Axie Infinity, where you play like a card battler game, and at the end of it, you actually earn cryptos, right? So that's the general gist of it. It's still an evolving concept, because the thing here is that your token has to have enough market value so that when people earn it, they can sell it for money. So like in the case of Axie Infinity, especially last year, there's lots of stories you can read about it. Entire villages in the Philippines converted to just playing Axie Infinity because they were making more money playing the game than they were doing their real jobs.
What the heck, really?
Yeah, you can read it. It's literally a true story, right?
But where does the money come from?
So here's the thing. Because it's cryptocurrency, it's literally creating new money, right? It's a new crypto, right? So Axie Infinity has this token called SLP. You play it. As you play the game, you earn SLP. SLPs are listed on exchanges like Binance, so people sell it for cash, right? So they exist, but in order for SLP to have any market value, they have to create value. So one of the problems that Axie Infinity has been facing after a year plus of this hype, right, is that the price of the token keeps going down because they are creating more SLP tokens than people are buying it. There's not enough demand. So the price keeps dropping because the demand
Inflation,
is very
right?
It's inflation, right?
Right,
It's
right.
aggressive inflation. It dropped like so much. I mean, I went into Axie Infinity, I lost about 90% of my capital because they didn't manage the tokenomics very well. They're still trying to figure it out. It's really not their fault, to be fair, right? It's just that it's when you create a token, you have to create value for it, and you must make sure that the demand is higher than the supply, right, in order for the price to go up. But the problem with this is that it's so easy to create new tokens, but not easy to make people want to buy it, so the price keeps going down. It's basic economics. So, but play to earn is centered around that. Everyone's trying to work out a model. I can't say that there's a specific play to earn model that is highly successful right now that you're guaranteed to make money. But they're all trying to do this. You play the game, you earn cryptocurrency. And it's no different than playing a game and earning in-game tokens, right? The only difference is that when the token is a cryptocurrency or you can actually sell it and actually get real cash for it. Whereas other games, you get the token, you can spend money to buy the tokens to play the game better, but you can't sell it later on.
So I know it's arcades where you actually get those things and then you can just trade in for like a teddy bear or whatever.
Correct.
Right.
So everyone's doing a different incarnation of it. So even for the Sandbox, they don't say that they're a play to earn game. They enable play to earn. They have all the tools. So I give you an example. If you play a lot of games like PUBG or stuff like that, you know that they have season passes, right? So people buy the season pass and they get to earn like cosmetics and stuff for their avatars. So the Sandbox has that capability. You can build your own season pass. So a game company can build a game in the Sandbox, make a season pass. People may pay money to buy it or cryptos to buy it, and then they'll earn like different NFTs. So maybe they'll earn like a gun or they'll earn an avatar, and then people who earn the gun or the avatar can then sell it on the open market as well, right? By earning it and then selling it off. So that's another form. So I won't say that's going to make you a killing, but that is one of the ways as well. So there are many different ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to spend time playing PS5 or whatever, you might as well just be doing something like a play to earn, right?
Yeah. So, but of course, I would say that it's really an evolving concept. Everyone wants to make a successful play to earn. So people are moving to doing like mobile games, they're doing like League of Legends type of games, but it's blockchain enabled. You earn cryptocurrencies instead of the in-game tokens. You use it to buy cosmetics. So everyone's trying to do a variation of it. I've yet to see something that I'm fully convinced it's very successful, but I would say that it's eventual because I have done a lot of talks, I think with MDEC as well, talking to the game studios, and a lot of them are considering it, but it's really about building an economy for your token, right? And some people do it very successful, like World of Warcraft. They did it very successfully. The demand for their even though they don't actually make it into a crypto, but people are like buying it like you're buying cryptocurrency, right? So there's huge demand for it. People are making a independent marketplace for that. So people see that in games like World of Warcraft already. So it's the question of how they translate it to the blockchain game space, right? And then that's going to be big. Blockchain games is the next wave. A lot of people don't realize it, but Even if the market tanks, it's very likely blockchain games is going to be like the next rally. It's a race to see who makes the next big blockchain game, if you ask me. Yeah.
So just take a step back. You said like they're making mobile games and stuff like that, right? But Metaverse, do we need the VR goggles, or can we just go online?
You can just go online. You don't need the VR. Some do VR, some don't do VR.
Because it's a different kind of experience again, right? Depending on the right.
Correct. There's been many that's trying to do VR because obviously VR is kind of like everyone thinks it's the future, but again, because not everyone has a VR headset, so now most of them do it like dual compatible. Like it can be VR, but you can also just use a computer and go in. But I think the dream is everyone goes into the whole Ready Player One thing. So I think even all these metaverse development companies and studios are trying to move to a Ready Player One. You know, but everyone's like just like we're still in that growth stage, right? But it's picking up speed. Like there's going to be a bunch of new VR1 metaverses coming up. I'm taking a punt in them as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So look out for that. Blockchain games is the next big thing. George said it here first.
It's already a big thing now.
Dylan and I need to get in on this somehow. Right?
I'm just gonna give my money all to George. Hey, George,
I know, right? Let him manage.
I'm not a fund manager. I don't do stuff like that. I don't
you know
need
what?
financial advice, man.
But TL, you should really get Adam on this. I mean, like do the whole series on this Sandbox thing, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. But you know what? If you don't mind, because can we just dial back even further and get back to, because I'm pretty sure people are still watching this and they're going, okay, I kind of get it, but I'm still very confused about NFTs, non-fungible, what's the T?
Tokens.
Tokens, right? So what's a token? What are NFTs? What is fungible? What is non-fungible? What are NFTs?
I would like to change the viewpoint. Like most of the time when people think NFTs now, they think art. They think
exactly.
They think art, right? They think it's selling digital art. But actually, what really constitutes the value of an NFT is that NFTs represent digital ownership. That's key, digital ownership. So look beyond the artwork or the picture or whatever you see of an NFT. Essentially, what it is digital ownership. And this ownership thing is a huge thing. You can use it to own anything. So I give you an example, Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is the one that Justin Bieber, Jimmy Fallon, Paris Hilton tried to promote on their show and all that. They have the picture of the ape. So everybody think, oh, why are you spending all that money for a picture that I can just download online? The difference is that the NFTs represents the ownership of it. So you can to put it a different way, you can take a picture of the Mona Lisa, but you don't own it, right? The value is that, you know, the NFTs represent actual ownership. And the NFTs can also give you access to their community. It's like a membership, right? A lot of people consider the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs like the black card or the VVIP of the NFT world. It's a flex. I can afford to own it. That's currently what's really driving it, if you ask me. It's a bit of a flex, right? And then you become a part of this elite community on the same level as like people like Jimmy Fallon, right? Or Justin Bieber. So people like that association as well, that we are part of the same community because we bought the same collection of NFTs. That's why they're so expensive, etc. So you gain access to that. You own that membership card. That's what that can be seen as, right? And on the other hand, like in the case of the other extreme, like mine is, we can now tag it to an actual physical asset. Theoretically, you could issue an NFT that represents the rights of your house and sell off the NFT equals selling your house off. That could be done as well. So it's really about how you design the NFT in terms of ownership. So when you buy art, you're not buying art NFTs. You're buying the ownership of that artwork. That's what the NFT represents.
Right.
So that's a big thing, and it's not new tech, to be very honest.
I was just about to get to that. Is it like, because it seems like the hype now.
Yeah,
but has it always been around?
It's been around for a while. I think one of the first ones were CryptoKitties, right? Where you could get an NFT of a cat. And then of course, CryptoPunks was one of the earliest ones. That's why it's considered like the OG of NFTs. It's not because the 8-bit is particularly nice in terms of a design. I mean, I have no feeling for CryptoPunks as an artwork, but it's because of its stature as one of the first NFTs that was made like years back. And it took years before it actually reached its current price of like, average price of $500,000. But it took years for that, right? And then it just had that wave. I would say that it started with that $69 million purchase of Beeple 5,000 every days. That to me was a big catalyst, right? And that really drew a lot of attention to something that have existed for a while. Actually, if you dial it back, right, initially NFTs or non-fungible tokens was really considered for more tangible use cases. Like I told you, like for example, land titles. You could issue an NFT which is tied to the land title of a property, and you can then immediately do a property transaction in, let's say, 5 minutes, for example, and can verify ownership immediately. It's one of those ways to authenticate ownership of properties. Why? Because some countries have an issue of people illegally selling off properties they don't own, right? There's land dispute, right? So this is very like it requires political will or governmental action to implement NFTs, for example, as a way to represent ownership of land or a house. So it's very dry. So years back, nobody gave a shit, right? Sorry to say, because it was just very dry. It was hard for the general consumer to understand. But the moment people started selling artwork with NFTs, and it's or like Nimue, I don't really know what his NFT does. I guess it represents his music, right? And it's digital assets, right? It became easier, right, for people to accept and understand. It's the understanding. Like it became easier. Like, oh, I'm buying art, or I'm buying a membership, or I'm buying this picture, etc. So it becomes more like a product that people can easily buy. So that really drove it up. And of course, with that artwork sale of Beeple every day, that really drove a lot of attention to it. So that was really the catalyst. So it's more of like, well, the tech was there, but then suddenly it became the most easiest thing for the average consumer to be a part of cryptos. In a way, they understand. Because I can tell you, a lot of people actually understand NFTs better than they understand cryptocurrency. Like a lot of people still can't wrap their head around how Bitcoin works, but they can buy an artwork as an NFT. That doesn't seem very scary. Or the process might be difficult, but the acceptance is really high. So nothing has driven more people into this blockchain space than NFTs, because it's easier to understand for the average person.
And is it easy for someone to load their stuff? Because I remember that guy from Indonesia that sold his selfies for
Ozali every day. Yeah, that guy.
So is it easy for anyone just to load anything?
Actually, if you're just doing images and artwork, it's very easy. It's such a developed market right now that you don't even need any coding experience. You can go to a marketplace or platforms. It's WYSIWYG, you drag and drop, click, issue an NFT. It really is even easier than issuing a cryptocurrency, right? It's so easy. So anyone can do it. A lot of artists are doing it because they don't need any tech knowledge to upload their artwork on an OpenSea and sell it. The barrier to it is actually very low. The only challenge is they need to learn to accept cryptocurrencies and convert it into cash. But that's something that they can learn. But to create an NFT is actually easier than withdrawing the money. It's very easy. You could do it tonight if you just tried it. You can issue an NFT just for the hell of it. I've got friends who just do it just for fun. It doesn't sell, obviously, but you've created it, and anyone can do it. And that's why the barrier is very low. Like, it's hard for maybe someone to buy, but it's exceptionally easy for you to create.
So does it work? Because in my head, because for me, my voice is my thing, right? So I'm just thinking about the guy that said emotional damage. Let's just say, right, that piece of audio that it's him saying it, right? That can also be an NFT, and because he's the one that said it, he's the one that owns it, right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, there are interesting projects that takes it to the next level. Do you know, like music clips, like you're in production, right? Obviously you understand. Yeah. Like, you know, there are drum beats, or there's a guitar riff. There are that samples that you buy for music, right?
Right.
And
right.
they actually create NFTs with individual samples and the design, and you're buying the sample, and you can use it literally as an NFT as well.
Does that? Okay, so in that case, how does NFTs work with royalties? So let's say I'm an artist. I've already created this particular beat or whatever, this song, and I'm under a label. The label owns the royalty to that. Do they automatically own the NFT to that as well, or they still need to upload that song?
So that's actually wrongfully uploading content that is copyrighted is a huge issue in the NFT, right? So like, you're a label, you don't own that particular sample, but it's from the studio, for example, but then you upload it as your own. There are a lot of measures that platforms will then take it down so that it stops you from the sale of it. So that they do exist. It is a problem in the market, but if you're doing it legitimately, it's actually kind of fine. But yeah, that's I guess an existing problem. But platforms are actively looking to take this down if you don't own the copyright of what you're selling.
Okay, you're saying, okay, so this is the point of all these things is decentralization, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it, but there are the regulators.
But they fall under like IP laws, so that's different. Those are existing laws, right? So so this is going to be perhaps interesting for you to do some reading on. There's a project called, you know about CryptoPunks, right? It's obviously the most expensive one. Visa bought one, so it's a big deal, right? And then there's a project called CryptoFunks, right? Instead of punk, it's PHUNKS. And the only difference is that they mirrored the image. It's the same thing. They copied it, they created a new NFT, but they flipped it, right? And that gets taken down. That means obviously like all the platforms they will take it down because there's it's literally theft. You're literally mirroring it, but you can't stop them from actually trading it. So what these guys do is that they build their own marketplace and it still gets traded because you can't stop them because it's decentralized. They own the NFT. So this is one of those issues in the market right now, where people can rip you off. They can actually make money from it, and there's in a way very little ways to stop them. This is an extreme case, right?
This is the new age DVD seller lah.
Yes.
Yeah, purple disc, gold disc, yeah.
You are, well, and they flipped it too. So yes, but but I mean it's that, right? And then there's this argument, like if you follow my Twitter and my profile, I actually buy derivatives, right? Derivatives is a very because see, when you buy like an ape, right, the NFT, in theory you own the rights or the licenses to that ape, and it allows you to create derivatives. So there are actually new NFT projects that are derivatives of that, and some people hate them, some people love them. I've bought derivatives which is based on we call an expansion. So like the original project has 10,000 designs, they make another 10,000 designs based on a similar design, but it's just different mix of the design, right? So that's actually, it's not a duplicate, but they get criticized as well because they said you didn't actually do the original artwork, you're just mixing it up, but you're taking the original artwork, mixing it up and selling it as your own, and the originals don't get it. So there's so many different IP debates that you can have in the NFT space right now, whether or not derivatives are considered legal, whether or not they should be accepted. So I mean, I buy them, I get interested in them so I can study them as well and get involved in the communities, how they're doing. I support some because I also think that they're right, but it's debated, right now it's debated, like this whole IP thing is a big deal. But of course, there's still some clear-cut IP laws, like if someone were to steal JD's picture and voice and then made an NFT out of it and sold it, he can obviously make claims against them because he's used it without your permission. So those standard IP laws apply. It's when it comes to things like derivatives and stuff, that's when it gets very questionable. And in the case of CryptoPunks, where funks, where it's a complete flip, it's just the same thing. They just flipped it, right? And they make their own marketplace and sell it. People are buying it. Where does that lie? I think that's something that's very interesting. I'm actually seeing how the IP guys are going to tackle this problem, right? And who owns the actual rights? All right. Does the NFT holder, the individual guy, get to sue them, or does it have to be the creators of it or the artists? It's really being debated on. I would say it's a huge thing, right?
Right. So if I want to start getting into this NFT thing, and what is the first step to doing it?
Well, I think you first probably want to figure out what's your game plan. Let's use an actual example, right? Steve Aoki, the DJ, he did his Aokiverse thing, right? So which I bought one, right? So it literally.
What have you not bought, man? You got. How much you spend a month, man?
I'm not gonna answer that question. Anyway, but then I'm not a person who just talks, right? Amazingly in this industry, right, there's a lot of experts who have never bought an NFT. Right? I'm literally buying NFTs when I'm talking to people sometimes. So I'm having a meeting. 1 second, I'm concluding a sale. Okay, let's continue, right? So but okay, let me come back to Steve Aoki. So Steve Aoki came out with his Aokiverse thing, right? And and it's an Aokiverse passport. The NFT is a so-called passport, right? And then by having that, you actually get access to his concerts, you get access to content, you might get access to merchandise. In fact, the highest tier of his passport gets you a WhatsApp chat with him directly. Like you can have a group which only you and him. So he's even selling access to himself. So his passport is access, right? You're selling access. So that's what a lot of, I would say, celebrities do. Another person that you can look at, which is a celebrity that I think doing pretty well, is actually Paris Hilton. Now, for whatever people's image about her, public image, she's actually a
very smart
savvy entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Savvy entrepreneur. And she's just monetizing, she's just creating kind of artwork, creating kind of value, and then she sells NFTs, right? She does her own Paris Hilton NFT. So it's a way for personalities to monetize their influence. And you can do it in the form of digital merchandise or special access to groups so that your fans can get in touch with you. So they have a personality has to decide on what that value is. So you're going to see people like do Irene Dao, Puyi Dao. I think Puyi is Malaysian. She's also doing a DAO. I don't know what it does. I didn't look into it, but I know it's happening, right? And you give people a certain kind of value. So the personality has to give them a kind of value. So what value is that, right? Some people sell their what's that called? Their art, their music, for example. Jay Chow is using it with his label. So what my WhatsApp profile is a Fanta Bear, which is actually it's done with his fashion label, I guess. I don't really know the exact details. and they use it as a collective membership for people, and they get first dibs into merch, etc. So it's real and concert tickets, blah blah blah. So you have to figure that out, and then you can design it. It's quite open-ended. The reason why it's hard for people to understand is because it's really up to you what you want to give and how you design it and whether or not people will pay you for it. If you're famous enough of a celebrity, actually people don't even care. They just buy it because it's yours, right? To me, that's why people bought Nimwi. That's why people bought the Jay Chow Fanta Bear. That's why a lot of people bought these, like Edison recently had an NFT sale, right? It's because it's him and they just want something that's him, if you're big enough. If you're not that big of an artist, then you got to be more tactical, right? You got to be more tactical. Like, what do you want to do? Is it for merch? Are you selling T-shirts, etc.? What do you want to achieve? And then you got to figure out a new model. And this is a question I get almost every day now. Like people like, I want to get into this NFTs. Then I'll be like, okay, what do you want to achieve? Are you just trying to raise money for your business, or it's just a cash grab? If it's a cash grab, then you got to be really famous. You got to be like Jay Chow famous. Jay Chow can do cash grab and nobody will care. He'll just issue an NFT. What does it do? Absolutely nothing. People will buy it, right? Because it's him. But only if you're that level, right? I'm not saying he is, by the way. I think Fanta Bear has more utility than that. But I'm just saying that if you really want to be a cash grab, you got to have that level of fame, because people don't care. They just want to own anything that is created by you. You have that kind of fan base. If you don't have that kind of fan base, then you got to figure out more value. And one of the things that's challenging is that NFTs is global. If you're a local personality, it's not easy for you to get a sellout success. It's actually very hard to sell out your NFTs. A lot of people think Ghazali is like an exception, right? And he sold it for very little. Everybody thinks he made $1 million. He didn't, because he sold it for like a few dollars, and then and it's just selfies of himself, right? But for him, it's a lot of money, surely. But and that's like a fad. It's like people are buying Ghazali every day because other people are buying it. And someone was saying, this is really cool, and they bought it. But it doesn't do anything, right? The NFT, right? So there's also an element of luck. Like he got famous, right? Because there's not that many Indonesian NFT projects out there. And there are other people like I know in Malaysia, like Asian, Hikari Adventure, right? Done by entrepreneurs in Malaysia. And they spend a lot of time and effort to get it to sell out. It's not easy. And they have to sell it global. You have to have a global mind. I see a lot of people, they just think I want to sell to Malaysians. Malaysia is not big enough of a market. You got to sell it globally. You got to think global. If your thing has a global value, you're willing to market all the way to the US, you can then do a good NFT project, right?
But where is the site that you go to? Like
on a basic level, the biggest marketplace that can do NFT issuance is OpenSea. So that's what a lot of people use. A lot of artists use. Go to OpenSea, they click create, and then they'll come out with a page. You can put in the name, and then you can upload an image, and then you're good to go. That's the most basic level. If you're doing a massive project, then you're gonna need developers, etc. Right? Yeah, as well. So there are many ways to go about it.
So for TL and me, it's OpenSea first.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I would recommend that you just do it just for the hell of it. Like, let's say you have some content that you feel like you want to try to sell it in the and you know, content, right? It's the thing is about content is like you can put up anything. You could even do a whole series about famous people that you shook hands with and you want to sell the photos of it, you also can. Like, there's really, you can not imagine the kind of stuff that goes on OpenSea. Just sometimes you go through and you boggle your mind what people put up, right? Sometimes for sale.
But then how will people find what you sell, right?
Yeah, so that's where marketing comes in, right? That's why people do a lot of marketing on Discord. They do a lot of marketing on Twitter. Some people do digital ads, you know, to see your collection, then they go and buy it. That's something that you need to do marketing for, right? And it depends on, and sometimes it's just luck. Really, it's like Gozali every day, pure luck. I mean, I would never buy it.
It wasn't his like just, it's a selfie.
Yeah, 5,000
multiple selfies, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's just luck. Sometimes it's just luck, you know. A lot of stories you hear where things sell out crazy, right? It's honestly just luck, or people like to be supportive. Like anything that's done by a young kid, 12-year-old kid, 14-year-old kid, right? May not do anything, but because people want to support a young person, it's not very expensive, it sells out. As long as that news gets out. And there's a lot of stories. Yeah, I have no idea how many people sell, like, what, young kid launch an NFT with dad, sells out. Very common story, because people just want to support a kid because it's global, right? If they don't limit themselves to just their own country, even a very simple idea, as long as you can connect with people on the internet, it sells, right? And it's that market right now. It's still very, very, very
creating cards. Sorry, I just downloaded OpenSea. So
right.
I was checking it out right now.
So,
domain names, music, virtual
so let's
world,
say something like let's say okay, there's a huge franchise like Smurf, right?
Yeah.
And then I create artwork with Smurfs.
Yeah.
How's that with IP?
Well,
like let's say I create like Star Wars stuff, like, but I draw it myself. You get what I mean? Like I draw my version of an Ewok or Chewbacca.
That highly depends on the companies. Some companies actually are fine with you doing artwork which is like your own, like you didn't copy and paste, like it's a homage to let's say Star Wars. You like there are many projects that literally have artists who draws Hollywood actors, and then they sell it as an NFT. I mean, I've seen plenty of that. That highly depends on the companies whether they want to take action. Because some companies are quite open to it. They don't mind that you're doing like homage artworks and selling them. Some would sue you, like Hermes sued the guys who did Meta Birkin because they used the word Birkin and they didn't like that.
Right.
Nike sued another company because they were doing something like what I was doing. They were putting shoes into a vault, but they're doing it a bit differently. They kind of made it feel like misrepresenting, like there's a partnership when there's no partnership with Nike, so Nike sued them, you know, that kind of thing. So it depends on the brand. Like nobody, I think someone did a cease and desist on this. I don't know. I'm not sure about this, but there's also a project that just does a homage. The entire collection is about variations of stormtroopers, right? From the Star Wars franchise. It's called Eve Troopers. I think I don't know. I don't know whether they got a cease and desist, but it is an issue, right? There are ripoffs, there are homages, and it depends on whether or not like guys like Disney want to take action or not, right? But they're everywhere. They're actually online. You go to DeviantArt, people are doing it. They're actually doing. You know what do you say to an artist who is doing commissions, right? You commission them to draw a picture of Deadpool naked beside you. I've heard crazier things, and people do that. So do you take action against the artist for selling that? So that highly depends on the companies, right? But they exist, like they're literally everywhere. They do exist, and then some people and that's why a lot of people are anonymous. They remain anonymous because they may want to sell this kind of maybe sensitive IP content, and they don't want to get caught. So some people do that. I personally don't like investing into or buying any NFTs that is being sold by anonymous founders, because it's to me there's no liability, right? And especially if you're dealing with IP, right? So and the holders loses money. So imagine if, let's say, Star Wars wanted to take action against these guys who did the Star Wars IP thing, right? Everyone who bought would suddenly be holding useless NFTs, and the guys who made it are anonymous. They took the money and they ran. Now, I'm not saying this project did it. I'm just giving an example, right? And then the biggest losers are the people who bought the NFTs, right? Because they didn't know and it looked cool, right? So a lot of rugs occur. IP cease and desist does occur, but again, it depends whether the companies they want to take action on it or not.
Now, another thing, TL, can you imagine if you drew not just stormtroopers, right, but bear bricks stormtroopers,
there are
right? Then it's like two different companies who might come after you for that also, right?
Just bear brick clones on NFT spaces. I think there are like 3 different projects, right? It's literally, it's bear brick iconic in 3D, but they're doing their own little designs for it and they're selling it under another name, and they exist. I don't know whether the bear brick company is taking action against them, but they do exist. There's a lot of that in the NFT space. Yeah.
Good God, I'm just checking out this list that TL sent me. The top 10 most expensive NFTs.
Well.
The merge, $91.8 million. Jeez.
Yep.
And I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's a heck of a lot of money for a digital certificate. Basically, you own the rights to that, right? In this case, is this is just like the tip of the iceberg? Do you see this like it's gonna get even bigger than that?
I think it's okay. The thing I'm very bullish about NFTs and Metaverse, despite there are challenges, right? But I'm extremely bullish because it hasn't even reached that point of adoption yet. Like cryptos, like we talk about the S curve, right? The length of time it takes to get 10% market adoption is the same amount of time it takes to get 90% market adoption. That's the thing. So cryptocurrencies is reaching that apex point. So assuming that 2009, it probably took about 10, 15 years, for example, for it to get 10%, it's going to take another 10, 15% where 90% of people use cryptos. NFTs haven't even reached that point yet. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So there's so much more adoption potential for NFTs, and NFTs technically have way more use cases than cryptocurrencies, because cryptocurrencies essentially it's still just trading and for payments, but NFTs it's like every NFT is like a startup, right? They can create. It's up to their own imagination of what they want to do. Some people are using it for charity. Some people are just trying to sell artwork. Other people are making games out of it. Everything is based around NFTs. Even metaverses wouldn't be as big as they are if it wasn't for the rise of NFTs, right? NFTs really just created that boom. Like now, people see money in metaverses because now I can make an NFT on the land. I can make an NFT on the buildings. I can make NFTs on the items. I can make NFTs on the avatars and sell them. And that's why metaverses are booming, right? Digital land won't be sellable if it wasn't in the form of an NFT, right? And tradable. So that's where it is. So NFTs is so wide, you can do anything. And it's every day I see a new business model like, I'll be like, I didn't think of that. It's like, and that's where it's exciting. There's so much room for NFTs to grow. We haven't touched the potential yet, seriously. And you're seeing crazy money now. It's also because it's a bit like the ICO early days in 2017, 16 time.
Right.
That's that gold rush thing. I think it will normalize and then people will focus on real value for NFTs. But we are in that gold rush period right now. So it's extremely speculative. You can make massive wealth right now if you buy it right. I mean, I have seen people become millionaires, even Malaysians. They were just lucky. They bought the same thing more than me. They took a punt, right, on the same stuff, but they bought like 5 or 10 of them. That 5 or 10 is already more than $1 million worth. You know, that kind of thing. You will see a lot of new rich, exactly like how ICOs created a lot of new rich. NFTs is in that stage right now before it comes to a bit more logical level. Okay, so if you have the risk appetite to challenge it, you might be able to make money, but I can tell you, you can also lose your pants.
Right.
Yeah, you can literally lose your.
Again, you mean you can lose? You mean you can lose whatever you put in, not lose more than whatever you put in, right?
Yeah. You because you're buying, you're not leveraging, so you only lose what you put in. So that's why a lot of people say you go into NFTs, only spend what you can afford. You know, that won't hurt you because the literally going to zero is really there because you can buy an NFT that nobody wants to buy, right? Like
it could be because it's the hype. Like even here, I mean, like, hey, buy this property in Semuanya, it will come up in price. And then eventually nothing happens. It's exactly like that, right?
Yeah, it's the same, right? I could buy an artwork, it will never resell, right? to me, the value goes to zero, but I buy it because I want to support the artist. But you go in knowing that you're doing that, right? So there's a lot of that. But of course, if you can sell it for a profit, you're very happy. So you don't know. And that's the thing that you're going to do with every single NFT. I spend a lot of time researching NFTs. I look at hype. I look at the value of the NFT. I look at the community. I look at so many different aspects before I even think about buying. And sometimes I still lose money. I still do.
That's the name of the game, though, right? I mean,
that's
it
the
is
the game. Yeah, it's just that the one thing that you hit makes money, maybe go 10x or 100x, covers your losses, right? Yeah. So it's that market right now.
Right. Okay, George, I tell you what, before we let you go, because we want to talk to you about, like, TL and I can see in his eyes already, like, what can we NFT that can make us some money right now? I can look at it. I'm like, because can I NFT this show? Can I NFT the logo? I saw his face, he knows already.
You know me too well, man.
For average Joe, for TL, for me, maybe one final word before you go on Metaverse, NFT, Sandbox. Should we get into it? Is it like, again, I told you just now, right? There are people still struggling to figure out how to scan their QR code with their MySejahtera and also reloading their RFID tags. What would you say to these people about, I think I want to get into the Metaverse and buy NFTs?
Well, I would say that I highly encourage people to at least attempt to buy an NFT in the Metaverse or whatever, or within their comfort level. And the reason why it's like that, because you would learn a lot throughout the process. You get exposed to something that you think it's insane. A lot of people think I am insane. I've given up trying to correct them. But but it is something that would actually change the fabric of how we do certain online businesses, right? You're talking about decentralization, you're talking about Web 3.0, the more enterprise level stuff. And if you don't even know how to buy an NFT, you don't know how the world's going to change in the future. There's so many things. People are talking about innovating online retail in metaverses, just a basic thing like that. Instead of going e-commerce, you're going into an online shopping mall physically with an avatar running around and having that experience online. Would it work? Would it not work? That whole journey, everyone is in the experimental stage right now. If you don't even try to get in, you're definitely going to miss out, not in terms of money. Okay, I would say that go in expecting maybe you might lose money. It's fine, right? But that knowledge that you learn to see that whole new wave of how people experience the digital space, I think that's the biggest struggle, right? A lot of people cannot wrap their heads around intangible items having such high value. My digital land, for example, one of them went up to about, I think, 30,000 US dollars, right? Okay, I was lucky. Okay, but that depends if I can sell it for 30,000 US dollars. Okay, but that's a different thing. But
the value is 30,000.
The value, right? The market value, but whether or not somebody buys it, it's the question. But that's like the floor price, right? I mean, you're lucky you get one like that. I have like one. Okay, I have not become a millionaire from it, but you're lucky you get one. It covers your losses, but and people can't get it. I mean, I still argue with people today after I explain to them about the Roblox example, right? They still can't accept it because that's the challenge, right? And if we keep confined to that, like we think, digital land got no value. We keep thinking like that, right? Whereas people are building their wealth, they're building a whole new business ecosystem. You're seeing what are companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, every single one of them are looking at metaverses now. What do they see that you don't, right? And if people don't participate, they're going to miss out because the big giants, VCs, PEs, tech companies, they're all at some stage or form experimenting. Even financial institutions, I think one bank recently created a premium lounge in the metaverse. I'm not going to meet any financial advisor on the metaverse, right? But they made it because they're all experimenting, because they see something we don't. So when everyone has this barrier, they keep saying NFTs is a scam or whatever crap that I hear all the time, right? But they seem to forget that every major giant corporation, Nike, Adidas, Puma, they're all experimenting. They're all going in, right? So they see something that we don't. So really, just try to buy something within your means. In fact, the most amazing thing is you can even get free NFTs. You can, the one I told you about, that land that is about 30,000 US dollars.
Yeah.
That land was free. It was a free mint. You didn't, as long as you were in the whitelist, I didn't manage to get into the whitelist, right? I bought it right after it was free minted. People were selling it for $300. I was like, I don't know, but it's like so hyped, so I just bought it, right? 4 months later, it went from $300 to $30,000. You know, I took a punt, right? But it's free. What I'm trying to say is that if you're worried, look for a free NFT.
Right.
This, right? But just get involved. Just get involved, you know, and just understand it a little bit better. See how this new market is like. That's really what I would say. Don't want to spend money, right? Go and find free NFT. They exist. I've given out NFTs to friends, right? They are free NFTs. I'm like, hey man, it's free.
Can I be your friend?
I mean, if you guys want, I can give you a free NFT. Sure, because they exist, right? And there are free NFTs out there. So just try it, you know, try it.
And I think the first step that you can do for yourself is just download OpenSea and just play around with it. That's so much.
Just browse the catalogs, right?
Yeah.
Browse
Why
the
not,
catalogs.
man?
Yeah.
Okay, Ready
So-
Player One.
So with the metaverse, right? Do you think at the end, soon enough, like real life is not gonna be there anymore? Everyone's just gonna
Everyone
be
injected, right?
in this, yeah.
I'm gonna say what I said in another thing. If one day we get jacked in, I would be the one to jack in. Like I'm totally for it. I mean,
I'm in. Right?
I'm in. Like if you say I want to upload my consciousness to the digital space, I probably do it. Right? It's a philosophical question. Would it replace everyday life? I don't think so. In a way, we still want human interaction. But if you're an Asimov fan, over centuries, you would lose touch of your humanity. It is a debate, but I know what camp I stand in. I'm gonna jack in. I'm gonna go into the matrix, right? If you can jack me into the matrix, I probably would do that. So you know that depends.
So
on
the
your
big question is, red pill or blue pill? All right.
All right.
George, thank you so much, man. Always a chat with you opens up our minds and also our pockets in some cases, right? So TL and I looks like we're gonna be again spending some money just because you
OpenSea.
told us to. Oh my god, OpenSea, right? Download it. That's great. George, thanks so much, man.
See ya.
Now I'm trying to figure out what to NFT. But anyway, you know what? I hope you enjoyed the discussion that we had with George. What new thing did you learn? Did we miss anything that you really wanted to find out more about? Let us know in the comments down below. But you know what? Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you had a great time listening in as well. And most importantly, I always want to remind you, don't be a dick.